Welcome to the session number 4 in module number 1, Introduction to Basic Materials Used in Foundry, presented by Dr. Maniraju M. Department of Mechanical Engineering, Government Engineering College, Chamarajanagar. In the previous session, we will discuss about what do you mean by binder, and then what are the types of binders used in molding sand, then what do you mean by additives, then what are the few commonly used additives and their properties of these additives also discussed in the previous section, and then sand molding, and then properties of sand molds also discussed in detail in the previous session, and then different types of base sands also discussed, and then types of sand molds also we'll discuss in detail in the previous session, and then molding sand mixture ingredients for different sand mixtures also we'll discuss in previous section. Finally, we'll discuss about methods used for sand molds, in that bench molding, floor molding, pit molding, and then machine moldings we'll discuss in detail in the previous section. Now it is a continuation part. Next we'll go for cores. Cores are used in the mold to produce mainly hollow castings. That is, whenever you required to produce some hollow or holes in the casting, then only you can use these cores. It is only method through which cavities can be produced in the casting without machining. Core sand is used to prepare the core. A core consists of base sand, binder, and water if required. A special types of binders are used for the purpose. Core sand is filled in a metal or wooden die, then rammed to get the desired geometry of the die. The shape sand represents grain core. This core gains strength after suitable treatments depending on the type of the binder we are using. Next, these are the types of cores or classification of cores. Again is mainly classified into 4 different types: condition of the core, and then what are the binders used, and then hardening process, and then shape and position of the core. Here condition of the core again classified into green sand core and dry sand core. As the name green sand core, it contains some moisture content, and a dry sand core and does not have any moisture content. And then in binders used, this is nothing but resin bonded core. It contains some resin as binder. Then sodium silicate core binder contains sodium silicate as the binder, and then oil bonded core contains oil as binder, and then shell core contains urea or phenyl formaldehyde resin as binder. Next depends upon the hardening process used. In this different process is nothing but CO2 process, that is uses CO2 gas to harden the molding sand, and then no bake oil, that is uses air to harden the sand. Another one is furan no bake, uses heating to harden the sand, and then Nishiyama uses chemical reaction to harden the molding sand, and then fluid sand uses some chemical reaction to harden the sand. In examination point of view, this last one is important. Shape and position of the cores. In this again is classified into different types. In this horizontal core, core is placed in horizontal direction. Vertical core is placed in a vertical direction. balanced core hanging on the side, and then hanging core suspended from the top side. Apart from this, again drop core, and then kiss core, and then run up cores also we'll discuss in detail in classification or types of cores. Next we'll discuss one by one. Shape and position of the cores. In this first we'll take horizontal core. See, this is the sketch showing the horizontal core. This is the cope box, and then drag box, and then this is the parting line surface, and then this is the mold cavity. Afterwards you have to place this core in the horizontal direction, that's why it's called horizontal core. And then you have to provide some core prints, that is for seating arrangements. You have to provide on both sides the seat prints. In this horizontal core, the main thing is core is placed horizontally in the mold, and then it is known as horizontal core. The core prints are provided on both ends of the core to rest in the seats initially provided by the patron. These core prints helps the core to be securely and correctly positioned in the mold cavity. That's why you have to provide some core prints on both sides. Okay, this is about horizontal core. Next we'll go for vertical core. Here, as the name indicates, vertical means here core. This is the mold cavity, white portions, and then this is the core. Here you have to place the in horizontal direction. Here core is placed on the position in the vertical direction. Here, when the axis of the core is vertical, it is known as vertical core. Afterwards we can locate proper runner, riser and gates you have to provide, but that portion is not shown in the figure. This is about vertical core. Next we'll go for balanced core. In this balanced core, here figure shows the balanced core. Here a balanced core is one that is supported from its one end only. This is the mold cavity, and then you have to place this core at the any one end, either right side or left side, and then such cores are used when cavity required is only to a certain depth. Suppose you required a cavity up to certain depth, then you have to place the core like this. On any one side you have to place, and then you support. This is the thing, but you have to balance on any one side. That's why it's called a balanced core. Next one is hanging core. Here this the figure shows the hanging core. See, this portion is the thing but the core. While pouring the molten metal will enter the mold cavity. This portion is the mold cavity. Will not enter this core portion. You have to hang on one side. Here the core is supported from the top. That the core hangs vertically from the mold, and the core may be provided with a hole for molten metal to flow. This is the box, and then this is the sprue or runner into which the molten metal will enter to the mold cavity. This is about hanging core. Next we'll go for drop core. See here the sketch showing the drop core. Here drop core is used when the axis of the desired hole does not coincide with the parting line of the mold. That is, the core is required to be placed either above or below the parting line. Suppose you have to require hole, and in this section you have to place them below the parting line. Sometimes required above the parting line also you can place. That is in this parting line, that is does not coincide with the parting line of the mold surface. That is, the core is required to be placed either above or below the parting line. You have to place, and then you have to produce the castings. And the next type is kiss core. Here is figure shows the KISS core. In some cases, patterns cannot be provided with core prints, and hence no seat will be available as a rest for the core. In such cases, the core is held in position between the cope and the drag uh, by the pressure exerted from the cope on the drag. Such a core is called KISS core, and then as shown in sketch, and then core prints are not provided, and then seating is not easily done. That's why only you have to, this is the mold cavity, and then you have to place the cores in the mold cavity. Afterwards you have to place the cope above the this drag box, and then here whatever the cope on drag by the pressure exerted from the cope on the drag, that's why it's called KISS core. And then last one is ram up core. Here see, here in this is the ram up core. Inaccessible positions, you have to produce casting like this, then you have to attach this core to the pattern itself, and then you have to place. That means when the ram up core is nothing but when the core is to be placed in an inaccessible position, it is difficult to place it after ramming the sand. The core used in this case is called ram up core, and is placed in the mold along with the pattern before ramming, as shown in the sketch. Next we'll go for method of making cores. Here core making consists of the following 4 steps. In this, first one is core sand preparation, core making, core baking, and finally core finishing. We'll discuss one by one. First we'll take core sand preparation. Here the core sand of desired type, it may be dry sand, and composition along with additives is mixed manually, or it may be mixed with machine. It's suitable machine is called Muller machine. And then next step is core making. Here cores are prepared manually or using machines, depending on the needs. Machine like jolt machine, sand slinger, core blower, etc. are used for the large scale continuous production, while small sized cores for limited productions are manually made. In this, a core box is similar to the pattern that gives a suitable shape to the core, and then a core box is used to produce a rectangular shaped cores, rectangular or whatever the requirement, we can prepare the boxes. And then the procedure involved in preparing the core is as follows. Here I will show here. Here the prepared core sand mixture is rammed manually into the core box. Here above the workbench, you can place the core box. After placing the core box, initially you have to prepare the core sand. You can fill this is the cavity. You have to fill the sand. The core box, after filling the entire this one, now your core box is inverted over the core plate. This is the core plate, and then invert, and then ramming pressure, and then remove the core box lifted. You will get the core like this. This afterwards the box is lifted vertically, and then to remove the core on the core plate, as shown in sketch, and then the core along with the core plate is sent for baking. Next process is core baking. In the core baking, this is the third procedure, core baking. Here cores are baked in ovens in order to drive away the moisture in them, and also to harden the binder, thereby imparting strength to the core. The temperature and duration for baking may be vary from uh, 90 degree to 250 degree centigrade, and from a few minutes to hours respectively, depending on the size of the core and the type of the binders you used. And last type is core finishing. Here, core finishing, the baked cores are finished by rubbing or filing with special tools to remove any fins or bumps or loose sand or any other sand projections from its surface. The cores are also checked for dimensions and cleanliness. Finally, if cores are made in parts and they are assembled by using suitable paste and pressed and dried in air before placing them in the mold and cavity. This is about different steps involved for making a course. Next we'll go for what are the binders used for cores. Here binders used for core making are of various types. Each type is to provide some desired property to a core for particular use or set of conditions. The core binders commonly used are below. In this there are the binders that become firm at room temperature, and then binders that become firm on baking, and then binders that harden on cooling after being heated, and then other binders also we will discuss in detail. First we will take binders that become firm at room temperatures. Here the binders that come under this group includes sodium silicate, and then Portland cement, rubber cement, synthetic resins, etc. In sodium silicate is mixed with silica sand, that is silica sand is the base sand, to prepare a core of desired shape and size. The vent holes are made in the core, after which carbon dioxide gas is passed through it. The core hardens rapidly. Within a few seconds after gassing is stopped. Next one is Portland cement. This is the second type. Here Portland cement is mixed with silica and water to prepare a core of desired shape, after which is made to set in a room for about 72 hours. The strength developed with this binder is very high and hence preferred for heavy steels and some grey iron castings. Next one is rubber cement. Binding of cores with this binder is a patented process. Silica sand is mixed with water, and then rubber latex that is obtained from the plant is added. The core is rammed and allowed to harden at room temperature. And then last one is synthetic resins. Here synthetic resins like phenol and urea formaldehydes are used as binders, and then they are mixed with hardeners and catalyst to bring about a chemical reaction. Strength development in cores takes place within a few minutes after mixing. Next, binders that become firm on baking. In this group of binders does not develop their strength by chemical or physical changes. Rather, they become hard on heating, that means baking process. Binders materials of this group include vegetable oil, for example take linseed oil, and then marine animal oil, example whale oil, cereal binders, and then dextrin that is made from starch, molasses byproduct of sugar industry, pitch a coal tar product, and then protein binders example will take gelatin and glues, and then binders that harden on cooling after being heated. A binders that softens on heating and hardens on cooling include includes natural resins like gum resins obtained by tapping the living tree and distill the gum, and then wood resins obtained from fine stump wood, and then limed wood resins, these are wood resins treated with lime, and then coal tar resins, a product of coal tar industry, and then other type of binders also we can use in this. One is clay binder, and then inorganic binder. Here bentonite mixed with water, and then sawdust and wood flour. Although not pure binders, they provide some little adhesive strength. They serve to improve the collapsibility of the core. Next we will go for gating system. Here the concept of gating is very important, as it helps one to learn the controlled flow of molten metal from crucible or ladle into the mold cavity. Here the term gating or gating system refers to all the channels or cavities through which the molten metal flows to reach and fill the mold cavity. Here figure shows the concept of gating system, that is the term gating system, the term gating or gating system refers to all the channels or cavities through which the molten metal will flows to reach and fill the mold cavity. This is a simple example of concept of gating system. Here the main elements of gating systems includes this pouring cup. This entire portion is nothing but sprue or runner, and then this portion is nothing but a sprue base or sprue well, and then this portion is nothing but a runner, and then this is nothing but a gate or in gate. This is a small passage through which molten metal will enter to the mold cavity. These three is nothing but a gates, and then after the last gate there is enlarged portion is nothing but runner extension. That is molten, we will pouring the molten metal here. After entering the pouring cup, we will enter like this. After here momentum will changes from vertical to horizontal direction, and then molten metal will enter here, and then enter these gates, and then fill the mold cavity. After filling the mold cavity, molten metal will enter the riser position, and then this riser is not a part of the gating system. The main gating systems include pouring cup, sprue, a runner, and then this is the runner, and then gate, and then mold cavity, runner extension. These are the main gating elements. We will discuss one by one. First we will take pouring cup or basin. This one is the pouring cup, or is also called pouring basin. The enlarged portion, this is the enlarged portion, usually in funnel shape of the sprue, as its top into which the molten metal is poured, is called a pouring cup. In some cases, pouring basin is used instead of cup. The pouring basin has a larger opening as shown in sketch. It makes pouring easier. Next one is sprue. This portion is nothing but a sprue. Here a sprue is a vertical passageway which the molten metal will enter the runner. It is also called a down gate or down sprue. The sprue is in the tapered cross section, as shown here is a tapered cross section with its bigger end at the top connected to pouring cup, and then smaller end connected to this is smaller end is connected to the runner. That is in the tapered connection, and then bigger end is connected to pouring cup, smaller end connected to runner. Next will runner. Entire portion is nothing but a runner. Here the runner is a horizontal passageway through which the molten metal flows into the gates. The cross section of the runner may be a square or trapezoid, and its length is very large compared to its width. See here, its length is more as compared to width. Next we will take runner extension. This is nothing but runner extension. It is a small portion of the runner that extends beyond the last gate. It is used to trap some slag in the initial molten metal. This is nothing but runner extension. And then this is nothing but gate or in-gates. The in-gates or gate is a short passageway which carries the molten metal from the runner to the mold cavity. While pouring the molten metal, will enter the sprue, afterwards runner, and then will enter the small passage. This is the three gates are shown here, and then this is a small passageway which carries the molten metal from the runner to the mold cavity. The gates used may vary in number and depends on the size of the casting and rate of solidification of molten metal. A gate may be built as a part of the pattern, or it may be cut in the mold using a gate cutter tool. This is about concept of gating system. Next we will go for some functions of a gating system. It's also called functions or requirements of a gating system. A good gating system should help easy and complete filling of mold cavity. It should fill the mold cavity with molten metal with least amount of turbulence. It should prevent mold erosion and gas pickups. It should establish proper temperature gradient in the casting. It should promote directional solidification. It should regulate the rate of flow of metal into the mold cavity. Next we will take different types of gates. Here we will discuss different types of gates. The common types of gates are top gate, bottom gate, and then parting line gate, step gate, and then horn gate. We will discuss one by one. First we will take top gate. This is nothing but top gate. Here the figure shows the top gate. This is the cope and then drag two mold boxes, and then this is the intersection of cope and drag. Is nothing but a parting line surface. This portion is nothing but the mold cavity, and then the main thing is top gate is nothing but the top are used to only for simple castings, and then molten metal flows. This is the molten metal. Using the ladles we will pour the molten metal. The molten metal flows into the mold cavity, that is directly from the top. They are the most efficient type of gating systems, and then simple to mold. The main thing is whatever the molten metal will flows into the mold cavity directly from the top. From the top side directly will pour. But then only the drawback is some erosion will be takes place, will direct impact with the mold surface. Next we'll take bottom gate. Here is shown in top gate, the molten metal directly will enter the mold cavity, but here see molten metal will enter here. This is the pouring basin, and then this is a sprue. After entering here, by back end you can enter the mold cavity. That's why it's called bottom gate. Directly will not enter the mold cavity. Here bottom gates are used for denser metals such as steel. Molten metal flows in the mold cavity from the bottom and slowly rises up. You can pour the molten metal here, and then after entering here, and then slowly it rises to cavity, mold cavity. It avoids erosion of the mold, taken more time in molding, and then bottom gate is as shown in the sketch. Next one is parting line gate. Here this is the mold. Okay, whenever you want required some holes or cavities, then you have to place core, and then this is the pouring basin or cup, and then this is a sprue basin. Here some gates are cut, and then while pouring the molten metal will enter, and then what are the gates will be cut on the parting line interface. That's why it's called parting line gate. After filling the mold here, molten metal will enter this gate, and then will enter this riser section. Here the parting line gate, the gates located on the junction of cope and drag boxes. This is the junction of cope and as drag. This is the junction, the parting line surface, and then they can be easily prepared, and then molten metal flows into the cavity from a certain height. These are used for most of the non-ferrous alloys and steel castings. This type of parting line gating system is used for non-ferrous alloys and some to produce some steel castings. Next we'll go for step gate. Here as shown in sketch, this is step gates. This is the pouring basin, and then this is the runner, and then this is the small passage through which the molten metal will enter. Suppose the thickness is more, size is more, then one gate is not enough, then you have to this is number of gates. Okay, that's why it's called step gates. Are used for larger castings and height is more. This arrangement helps in distributing the molten metal into the mold cavity and helping promoting proper temperature gradients. When the casting has more length or breadth, number of gates are used in horizontal direction. They are referred to as multiple gates as shown in the sketch. And then last one is arm gate. Here this is as shown in sketch. This is a vertical type of bottom gating. Here number of no core is needed in forming the gate, as in the case of bottom gate. One drawback is that there is a tendency of producing a fountain effect in the mold cavity. Thank you for patience listening. I will end up the session now.